Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of our smart objects tutorial series. We're going to look at a bit more advanced smart objects now by looking at how we can use different combining smart object slots to create more complex objects. So we're going to be making like a table that can be used for a restaurant and having it so the character can walk up to a table and then choose a seat at that table. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can basically have a smart object slot reference its own smart object slots. Let's jump in and take a look. So right off the bat, I've got the table object I need to make. So let's go ahead and create a blueprint class and we'll call it BP table. And we'll open it up and we'll give it a static mesh. And I've brought in a mesh that I can use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and search for it like so. Like so. Don't know what that was about. And I'm going to set the scale here because I know this is really too big. So I'm going to put it down to 0.75. There we go. Okay, perfect. That's what I want. So this thing needs to have a smart object on it. So we're going to add a smart object component. That's it. And compile that. And then close this. Come back to it in a moment. Next up, we need to set up the definition for the table. So we're going to go to the AI folder, go to smart object definition, SOD, and then table. And our table here is going to have 5 slots, and it's going to have the table slot, and it's going to have 4 seating slots. So over here on my add slot, I'm going to add in one and call it table. Now with this, it'll be a lot easier to see what the hell I'm doing. So what you can do is go to preview settings and you can either set a mesh or an object actor. Now, because I've changed the scale of my table, I'm going to use the object actor instead. So I'm going to type in BP table and it appears here for me to look at. So now I can move my slots here to make more sense, like so. Okay, let's add another slot to this. And put that there. And I'm going to name this one seat 1. Make another one. Seat 2. And another. I'll just do 4. And notice how I'm turning the arrows inwards, okay? Because that's the direction I want my AI to eventually face. So that makes the most sense. This will be seat 4. And we'll line that one up. Okay. Yeah, that'll do. And don't forget, you can make life a little bit easier for yourself as well by changing the size of these slots if you want to, also changing the shape of them. So I'm going to go to my table here, and I'm going to change it from a circle to a rectangle, and I'll change the size of it accordingly. So I'm going to change that to, let's do that to 80. I'm going to change the color of it as well, make it just stand out a little bit differently, like so. Okay. Now, next thing we're doing here is we're going to define the seats as having the activity for sitting. So we looked at this a little bit last time, but if you go to the seat slots, we can go to activity tags and we can add the tag for sitting. So we go to activity, sit. And these were managed inside my gameplay tag manager. So I'm just going to put that and copy that to each one of my seats. Like so. And we're pretty good there. All I have to do now is set up the behavior for all of these slots here. So let's go ahead and create the behavior for this. So we need 2 types of behavior. We need a behavior of the table and behavior for the seat. So let's go to blueprint class and search for gameplay behavior. And we're going to choose one as behavior. table slot. And I'll duplicate that and make this one seat slot. And I'm going to assign them to our table and seats. So on the table here, behavior definitions, we're going to add in the gameplay smart object behavior, behavior config, and then finally the behavior class of behavior table slot. And again, for each of the seats, we want to have the other one, which was the chair or seat slot behavior. And hopefully I can just copy that. Yep, that seems to have done it. Paste it there, and finally paste it here. So each of our slots now has a definition on it. Remember, you can't have a smart object definition slot without a behavior attached to it. So bear that in mind. Okay, we're going to close that now. And let's drag our BP table into the room there. And go to our BP table, go to smart object, and then choose the definition for our table. And because we use it as a template, it should all line up perfectly how we want it to. Now, for the actual AI to use this, we have to set up the table behavior, which is going to be finding a seat. So let's go ahead and create the table slot behavior. Functions triggered. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to trigger it, but we're going to tell the table to do a lot of the work. Okay, we're not going to get it all to happen here. So the main thing to be aware of here is a smart object owner. So this reference links back to the object that hosts the component. So I could take this smart object owner here and cast to BP table to get the result. And then from the BP table, I want to create an event in here. And we can do find seat. And what's going to be important for finding a seat is who is trying to find a seat. So this avatar here. So we need to send the actor pin over to that find seat. So back to my table here and find seat. We want the actor. And we'll call it the avatar, just so we've got a bit of consistency across there. And so back on my table slot, I can just call that find seat function, plug in the avatar, and we're good. Okay. So what this behavior is going to do is going to do this, and then it's going to wait for it to end. Okay. Once it's found a seat successfully, then it will end the behavior. So we'll come back to this in a moment. And in the table here, we want to make an event dispatcher on found seat. We'll call that one. And this will have the input for which actor found their seat. So I'm not going to worry about calling it just yet. We'll come back to that later. But I'm just going to go back to my behavior table slot just so we can map this up and be done with it. I'm going to go to my cast BP table, bind event on seat found. Drag that out, create a custom event, seat found, and then we do end behavior, passing through the avatar. Okay, so it's a very simple one. We're just letting the table do all the work for us. So the table is going to do the finding of the seat. So let's go to find seat. And this is going to function much like how we do on the state tree, where we use a smart object subsystem to find smart objects within a small area. So let's get our smart object subsystem. I'm going to tell it to find smart objects. And then we're going to plug that into our find seat function there. The request for this, we're going to drag out and make the smart object request. So the query box, we're actually going to use the actors extents already, their bounds. So we're going to do get actor bounds. And in here, we've got the origin and box extent, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to do make box with origin and put in those two values there. If you only want to consider the colliding components, we can do. So if your table has things that are going to be big overlaps and causing other issues, you may want to turn that on. So you've got that to contend with. And finally, the filter. I'm going to drag this out and make the filter. And in here, we care about the activity requirements matching any tags that have the sit activity. Okay, and that's all we've got to do really here. So let's put that in there and it'll find the smart objects. Okay, all the ones that are unclaimed anyway. So next up we want to do is return value. So the return value is whether or not there was a seat available. So if there was a seat available, great, we'll just use that. But if it's false and it's not available, we want to do something different. We want it to not find a seat. So on found seat is going to get called. But if I do another one, so on unavailable, and call that there. Oh, we also want to pass through the avatar for this one. Just refresh that. There we go. And put that into false. And the avatar here we'll put into there we do. So that will be happening on unavailable. So let's go back to our table slot and handle that here. We're going to cast from our BP table again, bind event on unavailable. And this one is going to do basically the exact same as seat found. Yeah, done. So go back to our table and we're back on true. So on true, we're going to take out results here. We're going to get a random one like so. And then we're going to mark it as claimed. So we're going to break this open. And we're going to claim the smart handle. Mark smart object as claimed. User actor being the avatar. Now in this case, I'm keep doing this. So what I'm going to do is promote this to a variable. Just so we've got it. It just saves me dragging lines everywhere. Just do this instead. Make my life a little bit easier. Okay. Okay, that's going to mark it as claimed. So it's claimed, but we're not actually doing anything with it just yet. So what do? Well, we need to find the definition of that slot and then teleport or move our character to it. Because what's going to happen is we're not actually moving our AI to it. The AI is going to basically stuck at the end of here, the table. All I'm going to do then is just make them animate over to the side here. Now, if you've got a root motion animation and you're doing some mocap, this is perfect for this because they'll just do the animation, match it, slide across the table. I don't have that animation. I just have a basic sitting animation. So I'm just going to make them teleport to the slot and then sit down. That's all. So I need to tell them to claim that slot, which I have, and then make them use that slot. So if I take I think it's a claim handle. Use smart object with gameplay behavior. This needs to know which controller, which we can get from the avatar. Get AI controller. So it can lock any AI logic it may be having. And then before we do unsucceeded or anything like that, we're going to do up here to basically teleport them. Okay. So we need to know how and where that slot is. So I need to find the location and rotation and basically the ultimate position to transform of the slot I've claimed here. So you can drag it from the claim handle and you can type in transform. If I turn on context, it might not come up. Let me just search for it here. Slot transform. There you go. Smart object get slot transform from request result. We want that. And oh, it needs to smart object subsystem. Sorry, my bad. That's why. Need this. There we go. And the result comes from Not from result. We want it from claim handle. Slot transform. This one. Get slot transform. You get the claim handle. That's the one we want. Okay, and then from that, I've got the transform, and I'm just going to tell my character just to move that location. So I'll take the avatar, set actor location and rotation, and we're going to set it to this transform. Okay, and then they're going to use that behavior. And this succeeded on failed is when they're finished sitting at a table. So we're not going to worry about that just yet. We just want that to happen. And then we're going to call on found seat. Oh, call that with the avatar in there, like that. And we probably want to clear the avatar being used. Ready for the next one. So for us to test this working, we should see our actor teleport basically to that location. Okay. So hit. Oh, it would also help if I told my character to have an AI, first of all. So let's do that. We've got an AI character. Let's throw them in here. So BP NPC. We'll just move them over here for a second. Go to their state tree that we made last time. We're going to find a smart object. The extent is fine. AI controller is fine. So in our filter, we actually don't want to use the user tags. We'll take those off. But activity requirements, we do need to find a table. So I'm just going to go into... can we do it from here? Yeah, manage gameplay tags. Smart object activity. We have another one here called find table. Okay. So we'll take that away from there. And in the tags here, I can just do activity, find table. Okay. So it's going to find the slot for that, and it's going to find the nearest one and transition over to it and use it. All I have to do now is just make sure that I set my table slot to have that activity tag that I just created. Okay, so let's simulate and see what our character does. So it's gone to the table. I don't know if he's used it. Let's take a look if that is occurring. 1 second. Go back to the table. So let's break down the find smart objects here. Make sure this is coming through correctly. Okay, so he's not using the behavior on there. He's getting to it, but he's not using it. So let's take a look at what's going wrong there. Okay, so I found the issue. The issue was the on triggered. For some reason, this doesn't fire. You have to actually make sure you're using the on triggered character. Don't understand why, but hey ho, it is what it is. So we're just going to move all over to the triggered character version of this. There we go. And it now should run over to it and then use the behavior of that. Okay, so now he's running over. Let's just double check he's using that behavior. So I'm going to cast to, or not cast to, breakpoint the cast to. There he goes. Smart object owner, BP table. Yep. Find seat. Yep. And that goes through here. So we've now got the avatar. We know which one it is. We're finding the smart object. So the issue may be that the box and bounds are not correct. It's finding one there. And this is returning false. Okay, interesting. This is returning false here. So let's take a look at why that may be the case. So the issue is that we got our find smart objects returning false. And chances are, when it's this is returning false and it shouldn't do, chances are it's our search area that's not correct. And it probably is the case as well. It may be that because my slots down here are on the floor, it's too low down and maybe clipping underneath the surface, so you can see it underneath it technically. So it could be just a 1 pixel away, but what I want to do is raise his up, I think. So I'm going to rise them up. Something like this. For now. Next, I'm going to go back to my table find seat. I'm just going to extend my box extent a little bit. It might be just it's hugging it a bit too tightly, so I'm just going to multiply it by a float and just do like a standard 1.1, something like that. Will be just fine. And hopefully now that'll work and he'll move towards a spot on the chair. Yep, there you go. So he was now teleported to that slot there. And obviously that would be an animation like you mocap in. As I said, I don't have that with the ugly way. But let's get him to sit down. And that's going to be handled by the seating table slot here. So seat slot. Let's open the full blueprint editor. This time make sure we use the triggered character. And the avatar here, we are going to get the mesh of the character and tell him to play the montage that we want to play. Now, in this case, I've got a montage of them sitting over in a folder somewhere. Yep, I've got a sitting animation. And I can put that together with a montage here. So I'm going to create a montage like this. And we'll just change that there. NPC sit. And in my montage here, I'm just going to loop the position here with this chair loop at the end here. And to loop a montage, all you got to do is add another section to it. Nope. At the start of the loop. Move that down to there. And then over here in the montage sections, you can just click on the loop and then choose it to go to loop. It just tells it where to go next. So go from default to loop and then loop again and get stuck in a loop, obviously. So we'll do that there. And in a montage to play here, do NPC sit. And we'll do on completed and blend out. That's when we'll do the end behavior. Like so. That's all we're going to do. So let's go now, check that out. And there you go, he's now sitting down. So as you can see, just need to line up the slots a bit better with his animation. So I need to move that really far forward. So let's go ahead and do that. Make that look a bit nicer. Whilst we're here. So we're going to take these slots here and move them to the edge. Maybe like that. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Bit better, maybe a little bit higher up, that's all. So let's bring that up a couple notches. Like so. Ooh. There we go. I bet I've done it too far now. We'll see. I don't know, that's not too bad. Definitely feels like he should be higher than that, though. It might be because his gravity is pulling him down. It's not the greatest model in the world, so I might have to use a better model. But the fundamentals are there. You can see that working, and this should work as well if I put in, say, 4 characters. They should all find a seat at that same table. Oh wait, it's because it's been marked as claimed. I don't want to be marked as claimed. If I go to shift multiply, because the table is claimed, they're going to look for a table. They can't find that table, so they need to make sure this table is not getting claimed as. So the solution for that is on our task when we find the table, we mark it as claimed. We're claiming it and using it, but immediately after we do that, we want to set it free. So I'll take the claim handle here, and we're going to do mark object as free. So now they'll all run over and take a slot. Cool. So the next challenge is for our next episode. We're going to make it so the table here will mark itself as claimed now, because if I go to there, you can see we've got 4 seats claimed, but the table still says it's open, which we don't want it to be the case of. So we're going to be tackling that in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this look at a more complex smart object behavior system and starting to see how you can really daisy chain a lot of stuff up here. Now, as I said, we're going to be adding further information to this by making a table marked as claimed if it is no longer have any free seats. So you can check that episode right now on patreon.com/Ryan Lowly, where you can find all my videos early before everyone else, plus many other benefits too. A massive thank you to all our patrons and YouTube members for their continued support in the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.